Why do people fear differences? Why do we fear things that we feel like are different from us, or people that we think differently from us, or things that we are not necessarily used to? Why are we afraid of these differences? And honestly, the more that I think about it, the more I realize that the difference that I notice in you is just a part of me that I haven't been able to accept yet, and to fully own and to fully integrate into my I am. The things that I notice that are different in you are simply archetypes that I have that are part of my personality, but they haven't yet had the chance to come to the front of the bus. And they're still very much in the back of the bus because I keep shoving them back, and I keep pushing them down because I'm not really ready to own that part of myself. And so, because I keep doing that, life keeps sending me the same examples and the same kinds of people that I feel are different from me. And so that archetype, or that part of my personality that I've disowned, that I keep pushing to the back of the bus, is forced to come forward at some point, because I keep if I keep being confronted by the same problems or by the same kinds of people that trigger in me the same things, at some point I'm going to have to surrender, and I'm going to have to face that archetype or that part of me that I've disowned, and it's going to finally have its time to shine. That part of my personality, that part of my I am, that archetype that I've disowned, will be able to say its piece. And then once I've made my peace with that, and once that I accept that archetype is part of my I am, then I will no longer have to constantly meet people that I fear are very different from me. And so I think that there really are no differences between us. I feel like we are more alike than we think. And I think that's a great thing. And if somebody triggers you, or if somebody triggers a response within you or something within you, that never has anything to do with them. And 99.9% of the time, it's about you. It's about a part of you that you haven't accepted yet, and that you haven't integrated into your I am yet. And that's the only reason why you fear this person. That's the only reason why you fear that there's a difference, or you even notice that there's a difference between you and this other person to begin with, right? Because if it didn't trigger you, if you met a stranger tonight and that person didn't trigger anything within you, that means that person is like a mirror of is mirroring back to you the archetypes that you have already made peace with. The archetypes within you, I should say. That person is mirroring back to you the archetypes within you that you have already made peace with. And that's why you're getting along. And the people that you don't get along with, the people that trigger you, the people that like cause you to have strong reactions, whatever those reactions might be, whether it's fear, whether it's discomfort, whatever that thing is, that should be a sign to you that you still have some things that you have to look at within yourself. And that's okay. Like, this work that I'm talking about of integrating archetypes is a very private thing, right? Like, you don't have to come on the internet and psychoanalyze your problem out loud in front of millions of people, right? Like, this work is done privately. And if you do notice that somebody triggers you, or that somebody triggers like a very strong response within you, you can just make note of that privately within your own mind. You make a note of that, and then you start the process of trying to get to the bottom of this on your own and trying to figure out, like, okay, why this person really brought something out of me today that I didn't like. How come? And you start questioning all of these thoughts that come up in your mind until you figure out what's missing, until you get to the bottom of exactly why that was and what made you feel that way. And once you do, and you start, then you can start the work of bringing that, like, first accepting that thing or that archetype that was triggered is a part of you, and that you've repressed it, or that you haven't accepted it, you haven't made peace with it, you haven't let it say its piece, and you start becoming friends with this part of you, and you start being a little bit more, like, a little bit less judgmental, a little bit less close-minded. When this part of you wants to come out and wants to say something, you can let it say its piece, and then that will dissolve the conflict, and then you will never get triggered by this thing ever again. And so as long as you do this kind of inner work and this kind of questioning, and this isn't necessarily a line of questioning that can be done like overnight, right? Although if you have the time and the patience, why not? But for me, at least, once I see something that I feel like is different from me and it triggers me, there's usually like layers to this. Like, there's the obvious answer why this triggers me, and then there's it's like peeling an onion, right? And then you get to like level 25, you're like, oh, this is really what it's about. And once you get to that point, then you start integrating, like accepting that this is a part of you, and that you start like adding parts of that archetype into your I am. And so that process is, like I said, it's a very private line of inquiry. You don't have to tell anybody about it, and it usually takes time to do, simply because there's just like multiple layers for it. So if you meet somebody and they trigger you and you ask yourself why, and you just come up with one answer, which is like the obvious answer, don't stop there. Keep questioning. Keep the line of questioning going. It's like you're interrogating a suspect. You know what I mean? Like, you keep asking why, what is it about this that is triggering me? What is it? Why this person? Why this specific way? Why on this specific day? Why did this word? Okay, this is the word that triggered me. Okay, interesting. Why? And I also noticed that I didn't like the way he talked, and I also didn't like the way he dressed. Why? You know what I mean? And keep the line of questioning going until you get to the bottom of the issue. And once you get to the bottom of the issue, you'll feel like you've been like hit by lightning, and it'll feel like the biggest epiphany of your life, or at least that's how it feels to me. But that takes some time and some patience. And so if these kinds of questions and this kind of like way of thinking is interesting to you, then I think you would definitely love my book that I published recently. It's called Mastering the Middle, and it's now available on Amazon. This book is about what I call the middle, which is the place between where you are currently and where you want to be. It's the space between the time that you set your goal, or the time you have a desire, and the time that you accomplish that goal, or the time you get that desire. And the gap between these two things I call the middle. And in this time called the middle, there's a lot going on that is happening internally. There's some external things that need to be taken care of, but a lot of the work is internal, and there's a lot of things that need to happen between here and there. And this book, I think, is a great guide for people that are in this season of their lives, that I think that this book can really help people and can really like take them on the journey and make sure that they're not wasting this time that I call the middle, and they're not like going on unnecessary detours that didn't need to happen to begin with. And so if that sounds interesting to you, I will leave the link for the book in the description box below. And thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.